Brothers and sisters, this Sunday marks the second anniversary of the death of my beloved Endocene, and I'm just not going to be able to post my usual Sunday school lesson that day. It will be a day for grieving. In place of that lesson, I'm posting this open challenge to creationist snake oil salesman Kent Hovind, who calls himself Dr. Dino and makes his living lying to people. Kent has boasted publicly about his eagerness to take on the whole lot of us atheists and whip us all with half his brain tied behind his back. Well, Kent, I'm only one atheist, but here I am, so bring your half brain and I'll bring my whole brain and we'll see how this turns out. For those of you who are watching and have never heard of the Dr. Dino Creation Science Evangelism Freak Show, I promise you some unexpected entertainment. Kent is an ordained Baptist preacher affiliated with the New Independent Fundamental Baptists, one of the most hateful, hard-right, dominionist-minded cults there is. Kent has built 2 fraudulent creationist theme parks under the same name during the course of his wasted life, the first of them in Pensacola, Florida, a property he ended up forfeiting for his failure to follow permit and taxing guidelines. Reverend Hovind spent a decade behind bars for tax evasion, and upon his release went right back to the con he was running before his ass was thrown in the clink. He's building a new dinosaur adventure land near Lenox, Alabama, a wide spot in the road that doesn't even have a post office. Today, Pensacola, tomorrow, Lenox. The trajectory seems unmistakable. He's the father of creationist con man Eric Hovind. There's a rotten apple that didn't fall far from the tree. Kent bought a diploma from a sketchy diploma mill named Patriot Bible University, housed in a Quonset hut next to a church in Del Norte, Colorado, and dares to call himself doctor. His doctoral thesis is a wonder to behold and a joy to read. And even though he tried hard to get it expunged from the internet, I have a copy. I read parts of it from time to time when I've eaten something that doesn't agree with me and I'm in need of a good stiff purgative. I may tear that literary atrocity apart line by line one of these days, but for now I want to have a go at Kent himself. I find his boast irresistible. I propose an encounter between Mr. Hovind and yours truly, only we're going to handle this exchange a little differently from what Kent's used to. Are you listening, Kent? We're going to do this one video at a time right here on YouTube. I'll post the whole exchange on my channel, and Kent is free to do the same on his. My channel isn't monetized and never will be, so the only thing I stand to gain from this encounter is the satisfaction of having whipped his ass. He, on the other hand, will have another atheist to whack and another entry in his large catalog of income generators. I can live with that aggravation. I'm not about to waste my time and money and endure a separation from my cats to drive or fly to East Broken Toe, Alabama to debate you, Kent. Nor am I going to subject myself to one of those moderated discussions where you gish-gallop all over the stage. That's not going to happen here. This just isn't going to be that kind of thing. It's not even going to be a debate, actually. You're always bitching and moaning about equal time in those moderated discussions anyway, so here's a sure way that you can get it. Once you agree to my challenge, I'll submit a short video for your prayerful consideration. In it, I'll have some questions for you. You will respond to that video. I will respond to your response. You will respond to mine. And so it will go, as long as there's any point in continuing. If you agree to this exchange and then insist on defecating all over the effort and refuse to get back within the guardrails I'm establishing here when you're called on it, then I win whatever this is by default. But I don't want to win it that way. I want to clobber you instead. Actually, that's not quite right. I intend to put you in a position where you'll end up clobbering yourself. Tearing you a new one will be one of the paramount achievements of my life and will give me great pleasure. Keep listening. A full explanation is on the way, but first I want to tell you a little about myself and how I'm different from you. You see, Mr. Hovind, I have a doctorate, a real doctorate, an earned doctorate from a reputable, well-respected, fully accredited institution of higher learning. My doctorate, unlike your laughable diploma, rests on a solid foundation of 2 earned master's degrees, which followed a real bachelor's degree. That sums up to about 30 years of post-secondary formal education. Now, unlike you, I will not claim credentials that I do not hold or expertise that I do not have. So I want to make it clear that my doctorate is not in any of the sciences, but in music, as are both my master's degrees, as is my baccalaureate degree. I've been teaching in higher ed for the last 34 years, so I understand what academic rigor looks like and why it's expected and why it's important. You clearly do not, for if you did, it would embarrass the hell out of you to boast of that terminal degree you lay claim to in all of your published propaganda and your idiotic whacking atheist videos. I know what scholarly work looks like. I understand what expertise is because I actually do have some in my field. I do not claim expertise in any of the sciences the way you do, although I think most people who know me know that I have a pretty good generalist's understanding of several of them. But that doesn't matter anyway, because I'm not going to be responding to that tiresome, still grammatically tortured demand for my 3 best evidences for evolution. There wouldn't be any point in it. You've already heard exactly the evidence for evolution that I would marshal, only articulated much better by fantastic science communicators like Aaron Ra and Dave Farina. You obviously didn't understand what they presented to you, since you persist in publicly excreting those miserable distortions of what you imagine evolution to be. Either that, or you have some deep blocking mechanism that you deploy to keep sense from penetrating your skull because you know deep down that sense would fornicate your nonsense. So don't bother asking. I won't waste my time or anyone else's telling you the same things you've already heard many times and ignored. Instead, it's time for you to answer some questions. You believe some really bizarre stuff, Kent, and you teach others to believe it as well. I want to watch you try to defend those beliefs. I want to watch you squirm, and I want to see the look on your face when it finally dawns on you that such bullshit is totally indefensible. We'll take it one point at a time, as you're so fond of saying. You can have all the video time you want as long as you're addressing the questions I've posed. Isn't that a nice thing to expect? There's something else you should know about me, Kent. I was raised in the same fundamentalist Christian cult that you're allied with, the very same one in its previous permutation. My young mind was hobbled by liars like you, but thanks to some lucky breaks and some good people to whom I essentially owe my life, I found my way out, and I see all that really, really clearly in my rearview mirror, and I resent the hell out of what people like you do to the young, the ignorant, the vulnerable, and I have a right to that resentment because I was those things and was preyed upon by cannibals like you. I know your position far better than the other atheists who have debated you. I know how your belief system works. I know that even better than you do because I've not only had the experience of living in that hell and seeing it from the inside, I can also see it from a position of objectivity that you cannot even imagine. I know how you squelch the cognitive dissonance. I know all this because I myself did it a long time ago. Now, do you still want to bring only half of your brain to this, or would you like to enlist the other half as well? In the world of YouTube, I'm really small potatoes, Kent, so I reckon I don't pose all that much of a threat to you, right? I will post a link to this video on your channel. I trust you'll see it. I'll expect your response within 2 weeks. If I haven't heard from you by then I'll tell as much of the world as I can that you're a coward who writes checks with his mouth that he either can't or won't cash. If you agree to this exchange, you also agree to the terms that I sketched earlier. This will not be a cross-examination, Kent. It will be more like an interrogation, actually, and I'll be the one who's asking the questions. Let us hear from you. Leave your response in the comment section below.